families. Today we're working on lesson 23, session 1, and it's very exciting that we're starting telling time today. Hopefully you had a minute to check out the YouTube video and the link that was attached to today's email also before viewing the lesson. It just kind of gives a rundown of different things about the clock, but we'll talk about that briefly now as well. So when we're looking at a clock like this, we call this an analog clock. There's also digital clocks where we just see the numbers. But when we see a round clock like this with all the numbers and usually two hands, that's what we call an analog clock. So taking a look at the features of one, we know that the long hand is our minute hand and the short hand is our hour hand. Now our short hand is missing from this clock, which is what we're going to be working on putting into our clocks today. So to show 4 o'clock, as it's asking us to do for this problem, we notice that our minute hand is already pointing to the 12, showing that it's going to be exactly 4 o'clock. We know that when our minute hand is exactly on the 12, it's exactly whatever hour we're saying it is. It's not a few minutes past the hour or many minutes past the hour. So to make this clock show 4 o'clock, we would simply draw a short hand, our hour hand, pointing to the 4. You may do that on your paper now. Draw a short hand pointing to the 4 to show 4 o'clock. Now, this hour hand should be a little bit shorter than our minute hand. Notice our minute hand almost touches our number that it's pointing to. Our hour hand should end maybe right about there. We should be able to see a difference in the length of the two hands. Okay, we're going to do the same for show 7 o'clock. Again, we see that our minute hand is pointing to the 12, showing that it's going to be exactly 7 o'clock. So think to yourself, where should we draw the hour hand to show 7 o'clock? And you're probably thinking we should draw it pointing to the 7 because it's exactly 7 o'clock, and that's right. So you're going to draw a shorter line than this line to show 7 o'clock on this clock. Go ahead and do that. We're looking at two more similar examples of problems. For this clock, we're going to show 10 o'clock. What is this hand called? The minute hand. What do we have to draw? The hour hand. Where is our hour hand going to be pointing? You should be thinking 10. It should be pointing to the 10 to show 10 o'clock. Go ahead and draw a shorter hand, which will be your hour hand, pointing to the 10 so that this clock shows 10 o'clock. And our last one on the side says show 2 o'clock. What hand is this? The minute hand. It's pointing to the 12, showing that it's exactly on the hour. So let's draw our hour hand pointing to, let me think. Oh, must be 2 to show 2 o'clock. So go ahead and draw your shorter hand, the hour hand, pointing to the 2. Now your clock shows 2 o'clock. Please flip to the back side of this paper. And here we have quite a big clock. So for this, we're also going to draw in a time. If you happen to have supplies at home to make your own clock, you can feel free to do so with this template and just hang on to it then for future lessons on time. But if you don't, that's fine. You could always cut some hands made out of paper, a long hand for the hour hand. A long hand for the minute hand, a short hand for the hour hand, and affix it in the middle with a brad or one of those brass fasteners so that you could spin your hands around and practice making different times on your clock. But for right now, let's go ahead and draw with your pencil 7 o'clock on this clock. You should be thinking to yourself, my minute hand, the long hand, will point to the 12 because it's exactly 7 o'clock. My hour hand should point to the 7 to show 7 o'clock. Again, our minute hand is the longer one, pointing to the 12. Our hour hand is the shorter one, pointing to the 7. At that point, you will have your clock showing 7 o'clock. You may pause at any time if you need to finish up. Let's move on to our next page, which is 517, the green page. So our directions say, think about what you know about telling time. Fill in each box. Use words, numbers, and pictures. Show as many ideas as you can. So our focus here is the word o'clock, or the term o'clock. What does o'clock mean? We've used that a lot already in today's lesson. O'clock. Well, when I hear o'clock, I think that it means exactly on the hour. So for one of my examples, I can write using words, as mentioned up here, on the hour. Or maybe you want to say exactly on the hour. Go ahead and fill in your first example box. Pause if you need to. Another example can be a picture. I'm thinking I could draw a picture of an analog clock, which would be a circle with the numbers 1 through 12 written where they belong. And then I could make a time on there by drawing my hour hand and minute hand. Go ahead and do that. Pause the video if you need to. Another example I'm thinking of is a digital clock. That's one that you may have in your house that is like an alarm clock. So looking at a digital clock, you would see that it would have a number or numbers, 2 dots, and then numbers after it. For example, 9 o'clock would be 9 ... or colon 00. So if you'd like to pause this and take a look at a digital clock in your house and write down exactly what you see, that would be a great example for this box. Okay, let's look at problem 2. Aiko tries to show 3 o'clock. Is she right? Circle yes or no. Take a second to look at this. 3 o'clock. Well, I do see a hand on the 3, but it's not the right hand, the correct hand, to show 3 o'clock. I'm thinking Aiko mixed the hands up. She needs to actually have this blue hand, which is our minute hand, pointing to the 12, and the red hand, our hour hand, pointing to the 3 in order to show 3 o'clock. Looks like she got a little confused on which hands were which. So I would circle no, she's not correct. She needs to switch the hands around. Again, the minute hand, the blue one, should be pointing to the 12, and the red hand or the hour hand should be pointing to the 3 to show 3 o'clock correctly. All right, this one on this side, we're doing 4 more examples of showing the different times. So we'll do this one together. Show 5 o'clock. We're going to draw our hour hand pointing to the 12. I apologize, I confused that again. Our minute hand, our long hand, pointing to the 12. Our hour hand pointing to the 5 for 5 o'clock. Pause the video if you need to. Show 8 o'clock. Our minute hand, the long hand, will point to the 12. Our hour hand will point to the 8. Minute hand on the 12, hour hand on the 8. 8 o'clock. Go ahead and try these two on your own. We want you to show 11 o'clock in this clock and show 6 o'clock in this clock. Please do those two right now, drawing your minute hand and hour hand for both. Pause the video if you need more time. 11 o'clock would look like. We have our minute hand pointing to the 12, our hour hand pointing to the 11. 6 o'clock. Should look like this. Our minute hand again is on the 12. Our hour hand is on the 6 to show 6 o'clock.